What's the principle? The principle doesn't matter if it's an ox, it doesn't matter if it's a car, it doesn't matter what it is. The point is, if somebody is broken down, if somebody is in need on the side of the road who's your brother, you have responsibility before Yahweh to help them. This happened one time when me and Petra were actually on our way to get married. I was in a tuxedo. And this old couple was on the Sabbath, and it was a weekend. It wasn't our wedding day. Our wedding day was the next day. But we were going up on the Sabbath day. And this couple that was Jewish, that was broken down on the side of the road, and we stopped them. Stopped there and helped them. And they were absolutely amazed that we're on our way going to get married, and we'd stop on the side of the road and help the people. But it's, you think about it, it's something that is a principle of the Torah. That when somebody's in need, when they're broken down, we need to help them. Go to one more here, Deuteronomy 25 and verse 4. Deuteronomy 25 and verse 4. You shall not muzzle an ox when he is treading out the grain. One more scripture. You shall not muzzle an ox when he's treading out the grain. Now, actually in the New Testament, if you go to 1 Corinthians 9, Paul actually reveals this one himself. 1 Corinthians 9:9. Actually, I'll start earlier. And Paul is saying here, he's saying, hey, is he the only apostle that doesn't have any rights? In verse 5 or verse 4. Have we not power to eat and to drink? Have we not power to lead about a sister, a wife, as well as other apostles, as well as the brethren of the Master and Cephas? Or is it only I and Barnabas that have not we power to forbear working? Who goes to warfare any time in his own charges? Who plants a vineyard and eats not of the fruit? Or who feeds a flock and eats not of the milk of the flock? Say these things as a man, or does not the Torah say the same thing? For it is written in the Torah of Moses, you shall not muzzle the mouth of an ox that treads out the grain. Does Yahweh really care for oxen? Or say it he altogether for our sakes? For our sakes, no doubt, this is written, that he plowing should plow in hope, and he that threshes in hope, and he be a partaker of the hope. If we have sown unto you spiritual things, it is a great thing that we should reap your carnal things. So very clearly, Paul here is interpreting this scripture to say, doesn't somebody, the principle is what? Whatever you're working by, you should have the ability to eat by it. And I know years ago, when I used to live in the States as a teenager, you get a job at McDonald's, or you get a job at, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts, and they'd let us eat all the donuts we wanted while we were working there. It didn't help my acne much in those days, but it's true. That's the principle. When you're working somewhere, you should be able to partake in the fruit of what you're doing. Like he says, what soldier pays his own way to go to war, buys his own bullets? It doesn't work that way. So again, we see one little principle, don't muzzle the ox as he's treading out the grain, to be applied in a big way. So when any given situation we get, no matter what it is, there's a statute or a judgment, more likely a judgment, but it could be a statute, that's going to be written there, that you have to do your due diligence. You have to be like the attorney. You have to be like the judge. And you have to go to that. And that's why, what did we learn the first thing with judging? The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. We're not to just judge from our heart. We're not to judge by our feelings. But we're to go to the Torah and literally look for precedent of something that would pertain to the judgment. Let's go to Deuteronomy 17. This is one other aspect about when we're judging according to Torah. Because again, in Corinthians 6, and maybe I'll read that maybe I'll read Corinthians 6 right now, just to show you that we are actually commanded to use the Torah for making the decisions in our congregations. 1 Corinthians 6, we're going to start in verse 1, and I'll go back to the verse in Deuteronomy. It says, does any one of you have a matter against another dare to be judged before the unjust and not before the saints? Do you know that the saints will judge the world? And if the world is judged by you, are you unworthy of small judgments? Or do you not know that we shall judge angels, not to speak of this life? If then you truly have judgments of this life, those being least esteemed in the congregation, you sit these, for I speak shame to you. For is there not a wise one among you, not even one who will be able to give judgment on his brother in your midst? For brother is judged with brother, and this before unbelievers. They were taking each other to courts. Indeed, then, there is already a failure with you all, that you have lawsuits with yourself. Why not instead just be wronged? Why not be defrauded? But you do wrong and defraud in these things to brothers. Or do you not know that unjust ones will not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh? I think I'll stop there. But we see clearly that these precedents that are set down in the Torah are all meant for us to be making these decisions. You know, we have a Matthew 18 process. We should have elders. If we have big enough congregations, you might even have a council of elders, but that are making the decisions, and the people in the congregations should all be learning on a weekly basis. That's why we do Torah readings, because all of us should be learning to be fulfilling these positions. And that's the reason why when Paul says, and we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, I wish you all speak the same thing. Doesn't mean that we're all, going to just say the same sentence, that we don't have free will of mind, but he's saying as far as our judgment goes, that we shouldn't have 10 different judgments. That if a situation arose within our community, and we had to figure out who's right and who's wrong, no matter who's making the judging, it should all be the same if it's based on the precedents of the Torah. So let's go back now to Deuteronomy 17. And Deuteronomy 17, 2 through 5. It says, when there is found among you in one of your gates, which Yahweh your Elohim is giving to you, a man or woman who does that which is evil in the sight of Yahweh your Elohim, in transgressing his covenant, and has gone and served other gods and worshipped them, or the sun, or the moon, or the host of the heaven, which I have not commanded, and it has been revealed to you, and you have heard and have searched carefully, and behold, it is true, and the thing is confirmed that this hateful thing has been done in Israel, then you shall bring out to your gates that man or that woman who has done this evil thing, the man or the woman, and you shall stone them with stones until they shall die. Stone them with stones until they shall die. One other scripture, Leviticus 20, verse 9. Leviticus 20 and verse 9. It says, if any man curse his father and his mother, shall certainly be put to death. He has cursed his father and his mother, his blood shall be on him. There's another scripture that talks about if any of the youth are disrespectful, the parents are to bring him to the elders of the gate, and they stone him to death. Preaching about this one time, and I saw her mother kind of pinching her kid in the back of the room. So what do we do? What do we do? Do we have our stones out here? Are we getting ready to start clobbering each other? We start wearing helmets to our Torah studies? No, why? Why would we enact one law, and why wouldn't we enact this law? Because we're not a civil government. We don't have the authority to do this. But you want to know something? If we had the authority to do it, it would be enacted. In the kingdom, if somebody is an adulterer, they'll be stoned to death. The punishment will be enacted against crimes, but Yahweh hasn't given us to be a civil government today. And who knows before the end? If like Judah now, Judah is a civil government, and Judah does